I understand
Yes,
this.
we are very sensitive about this thing. Biryani belongs to Karachi.
I will try to be loyal to Karachi biryani.
All right.
ACCA looks at Gen Z quite systematically. We do a global talent survey, including Pakistan, and it tells us that 78% of Gen Z professional accountants.
That's a huge number.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, which is not available right now as we speak. And with the interest rate again, thanks to Mr. some big guy.
Yeah, I don't like saying the names. ACCA's philosophy in the world, I guess, opportunity. You know, we want to always be driving the idea that everyone should have the opportunity to thrive and everyone should have the opportunity to be a professional accountant.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, वेलकम एक बार फिर से आपको खुशामदीद कहते हैं स्टार्टअप पाकिस्तान की इस पॉडकास्ट में। मैं हूं आपका मेज़बान अदील अज़हर एंड वी हैव गॉट अ वेरी स्पेशल एपिसोड लाइंड अप टुडे। वी हैव गॉट अ गेस्ट इन आवर शो हु इज़ नॉट जस्ट अ गेस्ट इन आवर स्टूडियोज, शी इज़ अ गेस्ट इन आवर सिटी, शी इज़ इन फैक्ट अ गेस्ट इन आवर कंट्री एज वेल। शी इज़ विजिटिंग हियर फ्रॉम UK and she heads an organization which has over the past few years become very popular and I would say a very trustworthy organization for students, young people who wish to pursue their careers in financial management and accountancy. I'm talking about ACCA. We have got the chief executive of ACCA in Pakistan these days. She's kind enough to visit our studios as well. Please welcome Miss Helen Brand, who is the chief executive of ACCA. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, Helen. Welcome to Startup Pakistan.
Hi, I'm really well and delighted to be with you here. Delighted to be back in Karachi.
So, we normally have a conversation before the start of our podcast, and I got to know in that conversation that Helen actually is a very regular visitor to Pakistan, and you've been visiting Pakistan for a very long time.
Yes, I first visited in 1997.
Wow.
And of course, Pakistan was a different place
Yeah.
then. I was much younger then. So we've grown up together.
Right.
And it's been very interesting to see the economy developing, businesses developing, and of course, ACCA's membership in the country.
Absolutely. So you came to 1997 as a part of ACCA then.
Yes,
You've been working for the same organization for a very long time.
Yeah, I joined ACCA in 1996. When I came here, I wasn't the chief executive then. I became chief executive in 2008. But I was responsible initially for developing our presence in markets all around the globe.
Right.
And I'm very pleased to say we now have over 250,000 members in 180 countries around the world.
Amazing.
Over 500,000 future members. So a very thriving global community of finance professionals.
And how big is ACCA in Pakistan?
We have about 13,000 Pakistani members and tens of thousands of future members, students as well.
Right. So, anything particular that you have? Okay, I'm not going to talk about things, see, Pakistan need to improve on these things. No. Things that you really love about Pakistan.
Well, being in Karachi, I have to start with biryani.
All right.
Love the food. So it's wonderful to be here.
So, you've been to Lahore or Islamabad?
Yes, I've been to Lahore and Islamabad a few times.
So Helen, since that you mentioned about liking Pakistani food, and you mentioned about biryani. So there's something that I have to tell you here. I mean, see, we Karachiites, we are very sensitive about biryani. You will be traveling to Lahore, you will be traveling to Islamabad. They're going to serve you something in rice form and they will call that. They claim that that's biryani, but that's not biryani. What you eat in Karachi is biryani.
I understand
Yes,
this.
we are very sensitive about this thing. Biryani belongs to Karachi and nobody cooks like us.
Yes,
All right.
I have been told that and I understand that.
All right.
And I will try to be loyal to Karachi biryani.
All right. That is wonderful. And I've also got to know during my conversation with her is that she's a big Liverpool fan as well. So, wow, you're having a great season. Being an Arsenal fan, of course, there are lots to disagree with you. But Liverpool fan, you're having a great season for sure.
Yes, we're happy, and Mo Salah re-signed this week as well.
Congratulations on that.
Yes, we were all very nervous about that. I saw him sitting on a false throne at Anfield yesterday. The Egyptian king is still with us.
I think that's a beautiful thing you mentioned about Mohamed Salah. And okay, it's not a football conversation, but yes, I mean, being two big football fans sitting here, so how can we avoid talking about football? But yeah, I think one very beautiful thing about football is that when you see players from Africa like Mo Salah, you mentioned, some player from Asia as well, they're doing well in the European leagues, and that is something that makes football so beautiful. I mean, people from all around the world, they make their presence felt in leagues all around the world. And I think there is something similar to this with ACCA as well. You mentioned about 180 countries. So tell me something, Helen. I mean, how does it feel to be heading an organization which has got so much global presence? I mean, 180 countries, let me repeat. And do you feel like that you've got your hand, you've got your presence, you've got your feeler from everyone in the planet?
Yeah. I think it's a real privilege to lead an organisation that kind of walks the talk in relation to diversity and inclusion. We were founded a long time ago, even longer than I've been working for ACCA. We were founded in 1904 with the clear aim to make the profession more inclusive. At that time, you essentially had to be very wealthy to become a professional accountant. And the people who founded ACCA said, no, if you have talent and ambition, there should be a way to become a professional accountant fully qualified through examination and experience.
Right.
And so when that's your founding DNA, you take that out, and I think it makes inclusion, which along with integrity and innovation, that's our value set. When you put all of that together, it's really dynamic. And our members are, they are really dynamic, and they're really contributing to the communities and businesses where they live and work.
So can we see that ACCA as an organization is rebel by nature?
We've been a challenger throughout, yes, and I think we like to do things first. We have currently our global president, so we're a membership organisation. We have, our governing body has members elected from right across the world.
Right.
And the current president is Ayla Majid from Pakistan.
All right.
The first South Asian woman to be the president of ACCA. And she's representing all our members from the UK, from China, from sub-Saharan Africa. Ayla is their representative. So I feel really proud of that. And I think it's a really positive message.
Absolutely.
At a time when we're not always receiving positive messages.
So Helen, for an organization, as I said, 180 countries, the requirements for countries are different. The world is evolving really fast. How do you, your team at ACCA, how do you ensure that whatever is being taught to the students, whatever is being inculcated to them, remains current and remains something that belongs to the world we live in right now?
Sure. Well, that's a constant challenge, and actually one of the main things we have to do is make sure that our members are relevant in whichever market they're working in and whichever sector they're working in. So as well as educating students to achieve our professional qualification, there's also continuous learning. You've never finished learning.
Right.
So upskilling, upgrading, giving new opportunities to people to learn, that's really important as well. So we do that whole spectrum. I guess there are two things to say. One, of course, is the accountancy profession is based on international standards.
True.
And most of the world has adopted or to some form adapted those international standards in ethics, in reporting and in assurance. So that gives a really good foundation. And ACCA, in another first, was the first professional accountancy body to put international standards at the core of its qualification. So all our members study according to international standards, which is a very good foundation. But then, of course, we have to stay close to the market to understand what are the skills and capabilities that are needed by employers and how are they evolving. And I guess over the past decade or so, there are two main streams that are coming through. One is technology.
Yes.
And it's really the integration of technology with the core ethical and financial competence that you'd expect an accountant to have. And the other stream would be sustainability. So how are professional accountants going to contribute to ensuring we have sustainable businesses and a sustainable planet?
Right.
And that's become such a pressing concern. True. So all of that means it's not an academic exercise. We're very orientated towards application.
Right.
So do people have the competence to do a job?
True.
And that's what matters to our members. That's what matters to employers. So we make sure that people can apply their knowledge in a very practical way and help businesses grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Helen, I'm sure you have got your fingers on the pulse of the Pakistani market, especially the young people. You've got a team here from ACCA, which is fully Pakistan based. There has been a shift in the aspirations of young people. I mean, I remember 20 years back, 15 years back, when perhaps I graduated, we all wanted a stable job, work for an MNC or a big bank, and just do our careers there. I think the young people are more adventurous right now. The startup became, we're sitting at Startup Pakistan, mind you, which is actually itself a product of the entire switch in the culture that has people gone through. So whenever we talk about startup, we think of technology. You mentioned about technology, that it's going to be an application, maybe a technological idea that is going to make your life better. How do you see the importance and the criticalness of financial management in whatever technological young people are doing?
Sure. Look, we know that young people have that great ambition. For ACCA looks at Gen Z quite systematically.
Yeah.
We do a global talent survey, including Pakistan, and it tells us that 78% of Gen Z professional accountants want to start their own business one day. You know,
that's a huge number.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
Now, it might not mean, maybe we all want to go to the moon one day. We're not all going to do it.
True.
But it does
the aspiration is there.
Yeah, it does show the ambition and the aspiration. So we're trying to, when we believe very, very strongly that the competence that I was talking about earlier, that you get through becoming a professional accountant will help you have a sustainable startup.
Yeah.
So many startups fail, unfortunately. And we know that the reason for that is the lack of financial planning, the lack of a business plan, the lack of a clear strategy that's going to take you beyond that initial brilliant idea and that's going to scale the brilliant idea that you have.
Yeah.
So either having that competence yourself or having an advisor who has that competence as soon as possible really, really helps to ensure that your brilliant idea is going to be a long-term reality.
Yeah, true. I think the idea of entire business existence has changed over the past decade or so. I mean, we studied that the businesses exist to make profit. But in the startup culture that we have seen, that businesses can survive for a very long time without even making a single penny. I mean, Uber is a very famous example. Amazon's core business is one of the examples as well. I mean, you've got a multi-billion-dollar company without even making any money out of it.
But you do have to have cash flow. You do have to be able to operate.
Absolutely. I think that's where the financial managers do come in. That even if when maybe for the first 5-6 years, and you've got a constant flow of funding coming in, which is not available right now as we speak, and with the interest rate again, thanks to Mr. some big guy
I don't like saying the names
across the Atlantic. We thought that the interest rate are perhaps on the downward trajectory right now, and the funding would start coming in for startups and all, but it looks like that we have got a reverse gear again. So I think that's where, Helen, you would agree with that, the understanding of even the basic financial management. And I really feel that it is not even an area of specialization. Everybody has got to have certain knowledge of finance.
Yeah, that's right. And as I said, and this is where our members play a role. If it's not going to be in an individual's competence set, then having a good advisor to help you with that. So many small businesses rely on small firms, small practitioners to advise them to ensure that they get the right structures in their business and have the right competence going forward. So I think it's great. But we are seeing more and more that the integration of technology and professional accountancy is giving people a real foundation to succeed, whether it's in the startup environment and small business environment or within one of the larger firms. It's the talent. I mean, I hear some of your largest tech companies here in Pakistan, the shared service sector. I've been meeting with many of them here. And they're seeing the ACCA future members and members coming into their businesses and really being very creative and contributing very much to driving the technology advancement of those businesses as well, because they're combining the skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was mentioning to you about one of my cousins who is appearing in ACCA. He's going through that process. I think it's 13 papers that you have to give, if I'm not mistaken. He was telling me the other day about that. And one thing that I really admired about his curriculum was the fact that it's so broad-based. I mean, when you talk about some other professional qualifications, I mean, you see it's quite focused, and the only I would say that the change that you see is they are being taught Pakistan studies, they're being taught Urdu and stuff. But what I liked about the ACCA curriculum is that it's not just very relevant, it's very modern as well. And it is obvious that you just keep updating it and upgrading it all the time.
Yeah. Well, our final level exams, the top level, we call strategic professional. So I think there's the clues in the name there.
Yes, absolutely.
Of course, you have all that core competence, but how are you going to strategically lead a business? And one of the main papers in that top level is called Strategic Business Leader. And so we're trying to give people the underpinning, the resilience.
Right.
Because as you said, there are going to be so many, again, Gen Z doesn't expect to have a career for life.
Yes,
They don't expect to be in one organisation for life.
True.
But you can have the underpinning knowledge and competence that allows you to be resilient, flexible, learn new skills.
Right.
And the most important thing we can ever teach anybody, I think, is to learn how to learn.
Yes, that's so wonderful.
So we're trying to put that into the curriculum all the time. And we combine it with experience. So to qualify for ACCA, yes, you have to get through the 13 exams, or depending on your prior education, you might come in at a higher level in those papers. You have to pass our professional ethics and competence, professional skills module, which is really important. Of course, that ethical component of the profession. And then you have to have a minimum of 3 years experience.
Yeah.
So, you're a very rounded professional once you have become an ACCA member.
True.
And able to build on that. And we have so many members who are CEOs, who've started their own business, who are leaders in government, different forms of government around the world in the public sector. But you have that foundation, and if you talk to any of them, they'll say, this is what set me up for life. They're not necessarily going to be in the accountancy function for the rest of their life, but it's set them up to do what they need to do. And that's great, because I think that flexibility and resilience is so important. And then, of course, we, as I said earlier, we try and support members in whichever direction they go.
Yeah.
With new learning.
So there's a constant process that once you have got the certification, once you are professionally qualified, it just doesn't end there. No. You just keep upgrading the knowledge, and you've got
at all the new member ceremonies we have around the world, which are fantastic occasions, by the way. Because people have such a sense of achievement when they've achieved this wonderful goal. We always say to them, this is the beginning, not the end. This is the beginning of your career, and it's actually the beginning of learning. So you will experience a lot, which always builds your maturity and your competence. But you need to keep thinking, okay, now we're talking about sustainability reporting, holding businesses to account for the impact they're having on the planet, and also for understanding how their business is going to remain sustainable in the climate crisis that we have, in the social pressures that we have around inclusion. So how is your business going to do that? That's a different mindset maybe from what you might have learned 15 years ago. So we have to help people to continue to learn.
And that exactly, Helen, was the next thing I was going to ask, because in our conversation for the past 20-25 minutes, you've mentioned sustainability 5 or 6 times, which actually gives me a fair idea how critical this entire concept of business sustainability and the environmental aspect, the ESG that we talk about, it does sound like it's a very critical foundation principle now in whatever is being taught to the students.
It is because we're saying we want to drive sustainable business growth. And the business and the public sector and firms all have a massive role to play in ensuring that, you know, we do have businesses that take into account their impact on the environment, their impact on communities. And we know that investors, and this is where it gets, I guess, even more sharp end, investors now are looking for businesses that can report on sustainability in a consistent fashion. So they understand that what they're investing in is sustainable. So there's reputational issues around sustainability practices. And there are very clear, you know, are you going to get the funding you need? Might depend, particularly in supply chains now. So very large organisations, we know that many smaller businesses are part of a supply chain. For the larger organisations, they will be demanding information from businesses around their sustainability practices. Is that information going to be there? And is it going to be presented in a form that meets international standards? So these things are incredibly important. I think it's a moral and ethical issue. Of course, you know, we all want to do the right thing and ensure that our children and grandchildren and future generations inherit a planet that is sustainable and that they can enjoy their lives. It's a business issue as well, you know. So unless businesses are able to change their strategies, their business models to drive sustainable business practices, we're all going to not have the planet that we wish to leave to our children and grandchildren.
But Helen, just taking this discussion forward, not specifically linked to ACCA, but the concept of sustainability and ESG, we have seen in the past few years is kind of under threat. I mean, there is a lot of political pressure that is going on. I'm not talking about United States right now, but even in some very, I would say, ESG-driven societies like Europe, perhaps, for that matter. I mean, we recently saw Germany relaxing some of their rules. Even your country, UK, I think they are planning to relax some of the rules regarding the electric vehicles and all. How do you see this concept? Because in the American conservative right now, in the political right, I would say, they are presenting ESG as a kind of as a negative character, as a villain, which is actually curtailing the business growth and all. So how do you, sitting at such an important and critical organization which has got presence all around the world, how do you see those development affecting the entire concept of ESG and sustainability?
There is a challenge. I think we all know that, you know, in the political environment, we like to create other, don't we, to kind of maybe distract from your own failings or whatever. And so, but I think the train has left the station on this one. You know, nobody can watch the news or even look out of their own window now without realising that things have changed. And if we carry on in the way that we are, that's not a good direction to go in. So I think there's some very practical realities that most individuals fully understand. And I certainly, from a business point of view, the majority, you know, there will always be exceptions, but the majority of governments and regulators are moving very much to demanding sustainable business practice. So I don't see that being withdrawn. There'll be the odd headline, you know, it might in a specific sector where something changes. But if you look at the underlying trend, it's very much moving in that direction. And actually, I think the governments and policymakers are understanding that they have to take the opportunities that are presented by sustainable businesses. So, you know, the new technologies that are going to be required in energy, in transport, etc. There are huge opportunities there for innovation to take place, and therefore job creation and wealth creation. ACCA, we've always talked about a just transition, and that's a common. I mean, that's well understood as well. So I think that, you know, that's where the rub lies, isn't it? That we have to take everyone in a sustainable way on that journey to a different form of economic growth and development. And that's, you know, that's a challenge. That's difficult for anyone. But I don't think it means you step back from what is so blatantly obvious to everyone if they just open their eyes and look outside.
I think you summed it up pretty well in your first statement, that the train has left the station now. It's not coming back. And just something for you to observe when you are here in Pakistan. Just see the number of the solar the panels that are there on the roofs. In fact, when you leave this place, just look at the houses. Everyone who has got a roof in Pakistan really wants to install solar. That's a kind of, I mean, it's not because we Pakistanis become very ESG oriented and very green technology pros. It's all about the on-grid electricity so expensive that people are actually moving towards. It's kind of a benefit that we're getting.
It makes sense. Ultimately, green energy will be cheaper, more accessible, and more secure.
So true, absolutely. So coming to the very Pakistan-specific things, especially the young people who are watching our podcast and who want to become startup entrepreneurs and all, what advice would you like to give them about the financial management and about advice in general? Because yes, the idea is beautiful. Funding could be tough, but still people are getting funding. And I'm not saying that the tap is totally closed and tightly closed. No, there's some water which is still dripping. Any advice, any suggestions that you want to give?
Well, ACCA's philosophy in the world, I guess, opportunity. We want to always be driving the idea that everyone should have the opportunity to thrive, and everyone should have the opportunity to be a professional accountant. Alongside that, I'd say education. Because I think if you equip yourself with skills at any point in your life, but particularly when you're starting out, that give you the competence and resilience to survive and thrive, you're putting yourself in such a stronger position than, well, how can I put it? Winging it. So, and I think we all have brilliant ideas. We want to get on with things, but sometimes investing in your own education in your own time is the biggest investment that you can make.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about how do you see, since you're frequent, even though this visit to Pakistan has happened after a long time, but I'm pretty sure you will be in touch with the developments here and all, and the ecosystem in Pakistan, the startup ecosystem in Pakistan. How do you look at that? I mean, what is your perception? What is your views? And how do you see ACCA fitting into this?
I think there's a huge talent base here, which is part of a global talent pool. I think that's really, really important. And I think when you are in that global environment, which Pakistan is, and I come here, I see the quality of the talent, the quality of the education. I think there's a huge opportunity for Pakistan to be on the map for all the countries that have, and I tell you, there are many of the developed nations that do not have the talent they need. So there is a matching to be done there. I think I think part of what ACCA can do, of course, provide the educational and professional opportunities for people, but also really talk very positively and put that message out that, yes, if you want high quality talent to drive your business, then you should be looking at Pakistan.
That's very nice. And there's one question that I always ask whenever I come across a professional like yourself. We just cannot end this discussion without talking about artificial intelligence. On my way, in fact, to the studio, I listened to this podcast from New York Times, one of my very favorite podcasts. This is about technologists called Hard Fork. And they were talking about a technology historian, and he was talking about that artificial general intelligence is right there at the corner. I mean, it has to happen. It will happen. Maybe next month, maybe next year, or maybe in the next 2 to 3 years. How do you see the curriculum? How do you see the finance manager, the professional itself, the bookkeeping and the accountancy? How do you see them surviving in the age of artificial intelligence? I'm pretty sure, I'm very confident, as a dynamic organization like yourself, you will be gearing up or preparing yourself. So could you please enlighten us regarding that?
Well, we are, and this could be a very different kind of liberation day, is how I'd say it. Because being liberated from the grind of processing and that kind of information is really good news for professional accountants. And we do see from our members that they're very optimistic about what artificial intelligence means for the profession, because they see themselves doing more interesting and more value add work. We're doing a lot of work on this. We're looking at the ethical dimension of AI, and we do think professional accountants have a very important role to play in businesses in being the guardians of AI and technology in general, that it is used correctly, that there aren't biased outcomes, and that it's used in a way that serves everyone, not a specific interest. That's one dimension. And of course, we think it can be it can be used creatively. So as professional accountants have throughout history, evolved to adopt new technologies, we see that happening with AI as well. So it will be a very different environment. This is what I was saying earlier, you know, that we have to keep changing, and we're talking about redefining the professional accountant in order to address, we've talked extensively about the sustainability issues and the technology that is going to be available. That puts the professional accountant in a very different role, using different tools. But that core of ethical professional conduct remains, and that's what builds the trust and confidence of what you as an individual professional accountant can offer to a business.
So how often do you use ChatGPT yourself, by the way?
I don't use it.
Seriously?
No.
That's pretty interesting. You're the first person.
Do you know,
after my mother, you are the first person I've heard who doesn't use ChatGPT.
I mean, I have used it, but I don't think, oh, now I'm going to do ChatGPT. It still feels, for me, I listen constantly, and maybe this is good for you as well. I listen constantly to the radio. So there is all, you know, I'm working or whatever I'm doing, I'm receiving information and absorbing information, and I find that, you know, that's the way I absorb information. I don't go into the realms of ChatGPT, but I know there are many who do, and that's fantastic, you know. So, and we in ACCA, we're using it in different ways, exploring how we can educate people differently, how we deal it. We already have a customer service bot, like many others, who's called Vera, after our first female president of ACCA, and that Vera serves our customers, etc., etc. So we're all using AI in different ways that
we don't even know you're using it. We're
using it, and because sometimes you talk to people. So I wouldn't say I don't use AI. I just don't use ChatGPT.
All right, Helen, thank you so much. It was very nice talking with you.
Yes,
and wishing you all the very best, and have a very, very hospitable. I'm pretty sure your host in Pakistan will be taking good care of you.
It's fantastic to be here. I'm having a great time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for watching. That was Miss Helen Brand, who is the Chief Executive of ACCA. The idea was to share with you how this professional qualification is evolving with time, how hands-on they are regarding whatever things are changing across the world. And of course, if you wish to have a career in financial management in future, you're a bit confused about it, do explore that. Maybe you go and ask ChatGPT, why should I take up ACCA and maybe not any other professional qualification. Thank you so much for watching. बहुत शुक्रिया आप सबका. इंशाल्लाह अगली एक और पॉडकास्ट में अदील अज़हर आपका मेज़बान एक बार फिर आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर होगा. तब तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफ़िज़.